Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to, oh goodness, excuse me. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how the globalist controlled media thoroughly and comprehensively misrepresents the asylum seekers and how they're to be defined and how they're to be viewed by Western society. Now, if you read the newspapers such as the Guardian or those sorts of journals, but really the entire mainstream news network, including the big taxpayer funded ones, the BBC in Britain and so on, they pretty much all take the same line that they misrepresent the stories of asylum seekers. I mean, calling them asylum seekers is one of them, but they portray these people as victims who had no choice but to leave the country where they were, and no choice but to travel thousands upon thousands of miles to come to a rich Western country illegally. Now, they don't mention the reality of this. They'll say, Ibrahim traveled from some African country that was in a state of war, and then that's it. That country's in a state of war. That's why he came to England, and he's just not been given enough money. Some purple-haired lesbian says from an NGO says that Ibrahim should be given much more money. He should be given more spending money. He should be given money to travel anywhere at any time he wants. The taxpayer should pay for it. There's a moral responsibility to do it. And that's it. It's asserted, and that's given as fact. There's no questions. There's no nuance to the story. It's black person victim, white people, white society must pay, and pay to make sure that this black person's compensated. It's sort of a vague reference to compensation. But so this is a guy, free hotel, free food, free phone, free spending money, all supplied to someone that arrived illegally in England, and yet it's not enough. More is needed, much more. And again, we're told so by the purple-haired lesbian, and who in in one of the articles, who's so corpulent, I'm surprised you can get out of the chair to make an utterance here. It's the only job she can ever get, working for some NGO. Now, if the story were to be an accurate depiction of Ibrahim's situation, his journey, his origins, and have a frank and open sort of debate and discussion about so-called asylum seekers, how they're to be defined and how it should be, then it would be a different. And I wouldn't mind if there were such articles. But this absolutely shuts down the debate. The purpose of this article is not to debate or to discuss or to present nuanced views. It is to assert and put in concrete and to make it very clear. If you have any questions about why Ibrahim's here or the benefits he's supposed to get, then you are a fucking Nazi, a fucking fascist Nazi. So anyway, let's just have a look at this. There's a few little clues in the article, and really, if you do some digging, it doesn't take long. It'll take a few minutes online, but Ibrahim arrived from a province of Africa that was in a state of tribal civil war. It was very local, but it was a tribal civil war, and a number of United Nations refugee camps were set up around the area across the border into the next neighboring country. So now we need to put Ibrahim in some perspective here. He's a rural tribal peasant who's illiterate in his own language. I would guess intellectually challenged to boot, and he went to during the conflict. He went to a refugee camp and stayed there. Now, the standard of living in the refugee camp would have been considerably superior to whatever he was getting in his home, rural village out in the middle of nowhere. So He's already doing quite well just going to the refugee camp. He's receiving, for the first time in his life, he's going to experience air-conditioned buildings or structures. They'd be demountable sort of cabins and that sort of thing. He's got medical and dental care. He's being fed regularly. Food is just being provided. He doesn't have to go running around chasing things to get something to eat. They've got the water there, sanitation. There are United Nations troops to protect them from, the goon squads that roam around. And so he's already doing vastly better than he's ever done at these refugee. And there's a number of refugee camps. He doesn't have to stay there. He could go to another one if he wanted. So this idea that Abraham's fleeing war and there are, malicious soldiers sort of on his tail as he runs for his life and this sort of thing, that's a lie. That's a complete misrepresentation. So if the article was and these media articles are all over the place, the propaganda is just endlessly being pumped out. If it was to be honest and or make an attempt at balanced reporting, which of course they don't, it's globalist propaganda, but they would say, well, Abraham went to a refugee camp where he was well provided with a standard of living far superior to anything he's known in his life. Then you would say, well, why would he go from there to a Western country? Why would he want to move from there? As soon as the war's over, he can go back to his village. This is the only thing he's known in his life. So you'd ask that, and there was suddenly the reason for Abraham being in England or anywhere outside of the refugee camp would suddenly be, well, people would ask questions, well, why did he leave the refugee camp then? He was safe there. But no, that's not the narrative they want to spin. He's fleeing war. He's being chased by Hitler, and he had to come to the white country where there's a lot of gender studies, angry, feminist lesbians to protect him. So with purple hair. So that's why he had to come to the West. So really, if they tell the story as it is, then you would question the very basis for Abraham being in England or again anywhere outside of the refugee camp. Now, what they don't say is, well, the refugee camp does indeed give food and medicine and so on. Also, it's crawling with United Nations and NGO activists that get to Abraham and sit him down and so, what do you think of the air conditioning here, Abraham? Oh, it's nice, Abraham says. What do you think of the regular food? Oh, I love it. And the clean water. Yep. I haven't had an upset stomach for days now. Oh, wow, okay. What do you think of the these nice blankets and these things? Oh, top notch. Love those. Okay. Look, Abraham, we can help you go to a first world white country. We can help you go to a rich country where they'll give you a free house. You can go to school and it's free. It's free food. All the things you get for free here, well, they can be for free over there. No one, people won't be chasing you. Armed goons won't be chasing you around the forests anymore. You go to a place like that, and we can arrange for you to go there. You can. Now Abraham's a simple guy. Again, he's literate in his own language. He's a peasant who's only known the outback of Africa. That's all he's known all his life. So he doesn't really know. He's got no frame of reference for what these NGO agitators and stirrers and propagandists are telling him. All he knows is these white people that seem to be in charge. They're telling him they can get him over to these places where it's free, everything forever. It's a place that exists only in the religious fantasy and imagine the land of endless milk and honey, and he can go there. And now again, in an African tribal sense, if the tribe has great bounty, which in their folklore, it's like a place in heaven where you go, you die, and where there's just endless amounts of everything. So, and it's sort of, he relates this to the stories that the semi-religious sort of bush stories that he's aware of. That he's going to go to this tribe, and this tribe has so much of everything. And in the African sort of socialist tribal concept, they're going to share it with him. And why wouldn't they? That's what tribes do. Tribes that have a lot. People don't own things personally. They share everything. It's a very communist type concept of sharing, which is consistent with most hunter-gatherer societies, by the way, nomadic ones in particular, but hunter-gatherer societies generally. So oh yeah, okay, wow, a tribe. You're going to send me to a place where the tribe has endless bounty of everything, and then they share all that with me. Oh wow, yeah, okay, that sounds good. My mother told me those stories when I was a little kid, and so wow, I thought you had to die and go to heaven for this, but in fact you can go to a Western country. So they encourage him, and now he doesn't sort of. He can't conceive of distance and different places, and you've got to cross large bodies of water. He can't conceive of it. Again, he's a simple peasant. So they just say, we'll take care of everything for you, Ibrahim. Now, these are the places you go. We'll transport you here. We'll feed you and clothe you and everything throughout the whole journey. You're going to have to cross the water, but we'll provide a boat to get you, and we provide everything. And the NGOs and the United Nations and the people smugglers, they've pretty much all merged into one entity now. So they're going to get him to England. But here's the rub. Ibrahim's going to cross 13 different countries, all of which are safe, none of which are at war, and he could claim asylum at any one of those. But instead, he crosses through 13 countries to get to England. Now, that's not explained in the article. So why did Ibrahim leave the perfectly safe, where he's very well looked after, very high standard of living, certainly compared to what he's used to? Why did he leave the refugee camp? How did he find the means and the resources and even the wherewithal to leave the refugee camp, where, again, he was perfectly safe and well fed and well clothed, to leave the refugee camp and cross through not one, not two, not three, but 13 different fucking countries, to cross through them to get to the well, in this case, England. So that destroys the entire myth around Abraham as being an oppressed, helpless black person pursued, having to leave. He had no choice. If I was going to get him, he had no choice but to go to. That's simply not true. It's an absolute lie, a total grotesque lie. Ibrahim was brought to England by the NGO, United Nations people smuggler machine, and when he gets there, he's getting all these benefits. But now the NGOs are saying, well, it's not enough. Sure, they get a free hotel, they get free food, they even get transport vouchers, and I think they get a free mobile phone, and on top of that, the free clothing, because the NGOs clothe them and all that sort of stuff. On top of that, they get $60-$70 a week, just purely discretionary spending money to spend on whatever they want. But remember, all food and everything's clothing, everything's supplied, shoes, the whole lot. Their laundry's all paid for. So this is purely discretionary spending money, but it's not enough. It's not enough. They should have more, lots more, much more, because they're oppressed, because they're escaping warfare. And so the article is pure propaganda, is depicting them as victims that they're actually hard done by, that are being oppressed. They've escaped this warfare that they're supposed to be running from, and they've arrived in the white country just to receive more oppression from evil white people who are all Hitler. And we're told that by purple-haired lesbians, NGO lesbians, that all white people are bad. So here's the thing. Now, I don't mind, if the story was balanced, it would say, and Ibrahim left the refugee camp where he was perfectly safe and being well looked after, was taken by the people smugglers and the NGOs, who encouraged him to move, preying upon his simple-minded understanding of the situation of world affairs, deliberately misleading him and deceiving him and causing him to be uprooted from his family and his traditional homeland, to cross many European countries, corrupting numerous government officials and bribing this and so on, and getting him to then come to England for the sole purpose of the globalist project of injecting as many non-white people in the West as possible. And this is a terrible thing. And now, after all these giveaways and all this taxpayer money that's being thrown at Ibrahim and his ilk, while local British white people are living homeless. And now these NGOs are demanding more. And this is an absolute travesty, and we should deport Ibrahim immediately. That would be a story or a narrative that would run true. It would be accurate. But instead, whether it be through omission or misrepresentation or just bald-faced lies, they present Ibrahim as the black victim oppressed by a white society. We shouldn't let them do this, and we should push back against it. Being a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.